Hare Krishna, beautiful people, and welcome once again to the Soul Ashraya podcast, an annual bhakti podcast where we will seek the shelter and wisdom of our dear Lord Krishna with Shastra, prayer, and conversation. I'm your host, Bhakti Jake, and I am joined with me with the most auspicious and most friendliest and most teacheringness, Balaram Shakti Das, and we have a very special guest with us on this return episode. We have the one and only Janava Priya with us, who is a senior devotee, and we are very, very grateful to have him on the show with us today. How are you guys? And where are you guys? I noticed Balaram is not driving, which is a plus.
You might recognize my bookcase.
Stationary. He's stationary.
There's no road jittle.
So nice to do a return podcast. I'm very excited about it. Everybody's looking good. Everybody's feeling good. It's good to be back. It's very nice to be back.
Third time or fourth?
Second, I think.
No. You've been on at least two.
Okay.
Right? Okay. Pretty sure.
I know he's been on at least one time. I know that. It might be two times. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
We just love having.
I'll his memory. His memory is better than my memory.
Yeah.
Feels like we've been here.
Yeah.
Times.
Well, Prabhus, let's you want to dive right in?
Just say John was here. We had a big kirtan event last night. So he always makes the austerity to come down to give his whole heart to the Lord and saying kirtan.
Yeah.
Always inspires us deeply.
Yeah.
Yeah. He understands the Yuga Dharma.
Yeah.
Like there's people that live like 10 minutes from here that it's like, no, I'm not feeling it. But it's like those who live hours here from here, it's like they understand. It's like if this is my last opportunity to sing with the devotees, how could I face Krishna? I said no, I didn't feel like it.
Association is so important.
It is.
I don't get a lot of it in silver cities. Really, really cherish it.
Yeah,
that's been a thing for me too, being on the road. Every minute I get with the devotees, it's like
make the most of it.
Yeah. And not to take lightly, the relationships we have, not to take things for granted. Like if there's something between our hearts, it's not like, well, whatever.
Yeah.
Just, seriously.
Yeah. Good association at least once a week. Got to have it. You really, really do. You got to go to a program. You got to go to a book study. Even if you have to zoom in, even if you got to, just get there every way possible, because it is so important. I was speaking to an esteemed devotee, I should say, I guess, yes, an esteemed devotee who we all know on the way back from Kansas City to New York, and he just let me know, like, you have got to have devotee association in this yuga that we're in this time that we're in, and it's so important, any association. Speaking of which, I got a lot of good association while I was in Kansas City, And those devotees down there are top-notch devotees. They are beautiful souls, and I cannot wait to get back down there. I don't know when I'll be able to get back down there, but it should be soon. It should be. We're at that stage where if there's any Prabhupada disciples that you can go and see and be with, then you had better do it, because the window is closing rapidly for that to happen. So yeah.
Our Guru Dev said it's going to be the decade of tears.
It is. It really, really is.
Yeah.
We have a window now where we can take their association, bow at their lotus feet, everything, even take the prasad with them, or even, take their prasad as well, which is definitely a thing, which I found out about, so, yeah, it's so important. So I want to get back down there, and it's a powerful place. It's a powerful place, Kansas City. It's special. It's so special.
Dude.
I haven't been to a lot of temples. I've only been to like the Philadelphia temple, and the Kansas City temple. Those are the only two I've been to. But I can tell you that there is something special. There's something very special about Kansas
How
City.
many devotees were in Kansas City? I mean, how big is it?
It's a good size.
There's probably less than a dozen, but as far as the community, as far as the congregation, I don't know, a couple hundred. How many were there? You were there Sunday, Jay?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was pretty full on Sunday. I will say, Sundays are, most people are working, so Sundays are the big day. Sunday night is the big night, and it was, I mean, there were so many people there that I didn't have a chance to say hello to everybody, so maybe 30, 40 people, which, is a pretty good size. Kansas City itself is, I was not prepared for the size of that city whatsoever. It reminded me a little bit of Dallas, um, just size wise. Maybe it's close, maybe it's a little smaller, but yeah, I was not prepared for how big that city really is at all. But yeah, it's a beautiful building. It's a beautiful building. And and they run a full program. I mean, just what is it? The 12 devotees that stay there, that are there, they have a program every single day, which I think is so amazing, because you could just stumble upon it. You could just go to it at any time, and they're gonna have something going on. So
yeah. Walk in the door at any hour. And
Wow.
Yeah. They're studying the books.
Yep.
Yeah. Or Sankirtan, everybody Sankirtan.
Yeah.
Out on the streets, like.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, I would love that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's always plenty of pots and pans to wash too. That's what I like to do. That's my favorite thing to do. I can do the book studies and everything, but just give me some pots and pans to wash, and I'm happy. It's like they have, with a busy schedule like that, they have a lot going on, and they're always making prasad, and it's just so good. I mean, it's so good to learn about Krishna and have the book studies. Of course, that's very important, but it's also so good to be able to do service too, and that's a place where they can put you to work.
That's how we really.
Yeah.
That's how we really learn Krishna. That's how we actually come to know him, is through service.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you want to expand on that?
Yeah, um, what text was I reading? Lila Murta, Chaitanya.
Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Yeah, that's where it was. It was the emphasis that we come to know the Supreme Personality of Godhead through bhakti, through service, through devotional service. So that could be worship, but it could also be the pots, straight to the pots. It could be chopping food, it could be anything, sweeping the floors. When I go to El Paso, Krishna Charans, New Nilachal in El Paso, I get up early in the morning and silver around 6 in the morning. I'm on my way and I get there by 9:30 and I start in helping. He makes absolutely awesome prasadam. And so I'm helping with that, sweeping, scrubbing the floors. I get to scrub the temple floors. That is the best of the best.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's all equal on the spiritual platform. No matter what we do, it's the same for Krishna, whether it's teaching or whether it's scrubbing the floors, raking the leaves, chopping.
No, one of the best experiences I ever had in Krishna consciousness was cleaning a kitchen in Delaware. It hadn't been cleaned, like a deep clean, in decades. That's what it looks like, you know. Probably not decades, probably like 10 years, but you know, I was pulling the oven out, hands and knees, scrubbing, you know, the filth, and I was in ecstasy.
Yeah.
Bathroom too. You know, I was scrubbing every inch of the bathroom, you know, ceiling included. You know what I mean? What to speak of the floor. And it was ecstatic.
Oh yeah.
Because I was feeling Krishna. You know, I was feeling like Krishna is pleased with me. Like I can feel that, like these are his floors, you know. It's like so like the service is very important. It's getting you out of your head. It's getting you out of your like world with all of these iniquities, right? All these impurities. And then when you have that realization, oh, like this is Krishna's floor, and like because of my negligence, it is dirty. You know, so like what is the condition of my heart then? You know, it must be worse than this floor. And then when you scrub that floor, feeling contrition, feeling humility, like I'm not trying to be anywhere else, or, you know, be boosted up to anything. You know, I'm willing to, you know, do menial service, like put my ego to the side and just get into it. I feel his mercy. I feel his happiness with me, despite my, you know, despite myself, despite my disqualifications, despite the wretchedness of my own heart. And to experience his love for me there, total ecstasy.
Yeah.
Total ecstasy. So like, you know, to be engaged in service, whether it's, you know, scrubbing a bathroom, or chopping vegetables, or even, you know, being on the altar itself, you know, you're entering into the disciplic line. You know, you are becoming a disciple, and that's what is the essence of spiritual life, is to be a disciple. You know, there's no self-made anything in spiritual life.
Yeah.
In any life, even material life, you can't say you're a self-made man.
That's what we did one time in Time Out of Mind in the spiritual world.
Yeah.
Be a self-made man, self-made woman. Yeah. We can enjoy without Krishna. You know, I'm beautiful too. I'm a good guy. I'm a good girl. You know, why aren't people paying attention to me? You know, I could build my own little empire, own little kingdom, and enjoy. And here we are.
God.
Yeah. Eons later.
Yeah, to be even a little pill bug in Krishna's empire, but Krishna is reciprocating with you so directly, so fully, so immensely. It's like you said, it's equal on a spiritual platform.
Even the grass in the spiritual world, it's an ecstasy. Krishna is stepping on me. I am providing a soft, cool, moist place for him to put his feet. And it's entirely ecstasy because everything is conscious in the spiritual world. Everything is aware. And it's offering that as service.
It's all participating in that one, world of Krishna. It's not like we're, that's the material worlds. We're all trying to live in our own universe. We're all occupied in our own world, competing with other worlds, and therefore there's no ecstasy because you're not there yet. You're never there. You're never fully realized. And even if you become self-realized, that's a drop of water compared to the ocean of realization of Krishna, because you get to be yourself, your realized self, in a whole world of Krishna, the supreme self. Every soul is taking part in this loving universe. Like, why would you, like, so this is why the Goswamis, they spit at the thought of just becoming self-realized in their own world. It's like, that's hellish. Being enlightened, being one with the light, that's hell.
Oh my gosh. The Rama Yoga.
Yeah, they've tasted Krishna.
Yeah, it's
on that note.
Yes, on that note, I will bring up the prayers. Absolutely.
Got this
really nice segue. Very smooth.
Hi.
Oh man, we just strive for professionalism here, and we get it just by being humble.
Speaking of professionalism.
Yes.
Oh, you lost the feed.
No, he's just putting on the.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's nice.
Is that better?
Yeah. It gives a more shadowless light.
Yeah. That looks good.
Just put it right up there.
Yeah.
All right. You able to zoom in at all on that? Why don't you zoom into the borders? Because YouTube, especially if it's on someone's phone, that would be all the way up. Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Oh, I sent you the new one, Jake. You gotta replace the file. It's got the Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Oh, okay.
The other one. You remember that? Yeah, next time.
Okay.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Okay, we can chant together. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Ayo. All right.
Also, half of the Maha Mantra is missing.
Yeah, I noticed that. That was kind of strange. I will bring up the text. Okay. And let me enlarge.
It's okay if
It's an hour and a half.
it's 2:30 to 4.
Yeah. We have another half hour.
Let me ask him real quick. Okay. Yeah. Be right back.
Okay. So, just in case you are new to the show, we are reading from the Krishna book. That is our main text on the Soul Ashraya program, and we are currently in the beginnings of chapter 3. And it has been a magical journey. There.
He's great with it.
Yeah.
Black one.
Oh, sure.
So
There you go, Prabhupada.
we can back up a little bit. How far back do you want to go, Balaram?
Just when Vasudeva was convinced. Yeah, that's nice.
Okay.
That's a nice little context.
Okay.
Beautiful paragraph.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. Yes. Do you want me to read? I'll read.
When Vasudeva was convinced. Yeah, go ahead.
Radha Krishna. When Vasudeva was convinced that the newborn child was the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, he bowed down and with folded hands and began to offer him prayers. At that time, Vasudeva was in the transcendental position, and he became completely free from all fear of Kamsa. The newborn baby was also flashing his effulgence within the room in which he appeared. You know he was. This is Krishna. I'll keep on going. I like to read.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to keep on going. You guys look so much better now. What'd you do? All right, I'll keep on going. Vasudeva, when he began to offer his prayers, my dear Lord, I can understand who you are. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Super Soul of all living entities, and the absolute truth. You have appeared in your own eternal form, which is directly perceived by us. I understand that because I am afraid of Kamsa. You have appeared just to deliver me. Yes, sorry. You have appeared just to deliver me from that fear. You do not belong to this material world. You are the same person who brings about the cosmic manifestation simply by glancing over material nature. Okay. One may argue that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who creates the whole cosmic manifestation simply by his glance, cannot come within the womb of Devaki, the wife of Vasudeva. To eradicate this argument, Vasudeva said, my dear Lord, It is not a very wonderful thing that you have appeared within the womb of Devaki, because the creation was also made in that way. You were lying on the causal, causal ocean as Mahavishnu, and by your breathing process, innumerable universes came into existence. Then you entered into each of the universes as Garbhodakshai Vishnu. Then again you expanded yourself as Shirodakshai Vishnu and entered into the hearts of all living entities and even into the atoms. Therefore, your entrance into the womb of Devaki is understandable in the same way. You appear to have entered, but you are simultaneously all pervading. We can understand your entrance and non-entrance from material examples. The total material energy remains intact even after being divided into 16 elements. The material body is nothing but the total material energy remains. The material body is nothing but the combination of the 5 gross elements, namely earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Whenever there is a material body, it appears that such elements are newly created, but actually, the elements are always existing outside of the body. Similarly, although you have appeared as a child in the womb of Devaki, you are also existing outside. You are always in your abode, but still you can simultaneously expand yourself into millions of Hare Krishna. Wow. How about that? This is amazing. This is amazing.
Talk about a description of God right there.
Yeah. You want to talk about that for a second?
Quick pop quiz. Yeah. Before we do, pop quiz, because not all 16 were enumerated there. Do either of you know what the other elements are that are referred to?
False ego is one of them. Mind, right?
So there's different enumerations, but starting from the bottom up, what would they be? Earth, water, fire, air, ether.
Uh-huh.
And then
what, mind, intellect, and ego? Is that right?
they would be, but in this case, it's just the mind, because it's 16. So it's 6, those are 6 elements, and then 10.
Mm-hmm.
So 10 is the 5 working senses and the 5 knowledge acquiring senses. So that would be like our 5 senses, like eyes, ears, nose, taste, touch, and then working organs. Yeah. Hands, legs, genitals, speech, evacuating organ. Yeah. And then you could add more, like another 8 or so. But yeah, we discussed that a few times. That, you're looking at the material elements, it's just these different combinations of material things, but the Lord is not included in these at all. And we discussed this yesterday. We touched on this a little bit as far as Mayavada philosophy, and Atul Govinda also discussed this on Thursday. Mayavada philosophy basically says that when the Lord, meaning when the Creator, when God creates, he then takes material form, either as the universe itself, and therefore people pray to the universe. Oh, the universe, that must be the supreme entity. It's just a material universe. There's nothing beyond that. That's all superstition. It's all dogma. We see where that leads us, right? Or if you're subscribing to the, cosmology of India, or maybe not cosmology, just more like the mythos or the lore, then you'll say, oh, okay, they have their, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, deities. We understand those are just the three material modes,
Right.
goodness, passion, ignorance, and which would be three other elements that you could categorize the world as. And that's their Krishna is just an interaction of Brahman with the mode of goodness. So we're just seeing the mode of goodness acting. It's not God. I mean, okay, yeah, it's God, but not any more than I'm God or you're God, right? It's all God, So what they're doing is they're not admitting a personality of Godhead. They're not admitting a spiritual world, a transcendental personality, and therefore they're not able to enter into a loving relationship with the Lord.
Impersonalism.
It's impersonal, and because they believe that the form of Krishna is material energy, which is called Maya, illusion, they're known as Mayavada. Those who believe that the ultimate reality is illusion. It's covering over the form of God, which is nothing but impersonal energy, and therefore they never develop any attraction to a personality, and therefore they're never able to develop love to any extent. They might be good people, as far as the mode of goodness is concerned, but there's no actual love because they deny the fundamental reality of personhood. So here, Vasudeva is just in seeing the Lord, he's speaking so much about who he is and how he is this transcendental reality, and he's simultaneously rejecting the different tenets of impersonalism in his prayers. So again, when we're reading this book, we're seeing a lot of prayers, like any paragraph that starts with "My Lord," it's like he's praying, right? And so it's just like over and over these different prayers that we've, especially the last chapter, was like
the Lord has no material attributes at all.
Yeah.
Another way of putting that.
So they're teaching us how we can open dialogue, right, with the Lord, which first is, establishing both within our own intelligence and like within our relationship with him, like his position. And then connecting with him in bhakti yoga. Like yesterday we we're discussing Madhvacharya, who's the founder, one of the principal founders of our movement, and his tenets, right? Like he wrote in his will, right? He's like, Krishna is the supreme Lord, bhakti is the means to attain him. If I do not return from this mountain, carry on this mission, establish this truth. Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead is a person, and bhakti is the means to attain him. So when we enter into bhakti, when we're engaging in devotional service, such as, scrubbing the floors, he reveals himself, that non-material quality, the qualities that are not material. There's totally spiritual qualities, full of bliss. What was that statement I recently heard? It was one of the acharyas who was, contemporary of Madhvacharya, in response to Mayavada philosophy, just saying that the Lord's body is an eternal form of bliss, spiritual form. And so by connecting with the Lord, we, receive those qualities, basically. Yeah. And there's no material, impediments to that, right?
Right.
That the more we can humble ourselves in our material position, the more we open up, would you say?
Yeah. Eternity, bliss, and knowledge. And that's how we gain the knowledge from, because we're connecting with that.
That is radical. I mean, that in itself, and chapter 13 of the Bhagavad Gita talks about, the acquisition of knowledge, that knowledge, the process for gaining knowledge is scrubbing floors. What? There's a story.
Mowing the lawn too.
What? I learned so much. Like, what did you learn? Like, you weren't talking to anyone, you weren't reading anything, you weren't studying anything. No, there's this very pious, learned Brahmin man who went to go visit Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, our Srila Prabhupada's guru. And he had some, questions for the Swami, right? And Swami was busy, right? And so he said, my disciples can answer your questions. And the disciples were like, first, help us, do some seva, wash some pots.
Yeah.
Clean up, we have a lot of work to do. Then we'll be glad to answer your questions. And so he did, spent several hours, whatever. And then they're like, okay, thanks so much for your help. Like, what did you want to know? And he's like, I'd like to see your guru, right? And all right, go see Srila Prabhupada. And so he went to him and said, when I came here, I had these questions, but just by performing service, they've all been answered.
Yeah.
He understood everything. Yeah, the potency is there. It's like if you just go scrub any floor, it's not going to have the same effect.
Right.
It's not. And people without this clear conception of Krishna, without the understanding of the authorized sampradayas, they think any service is good. Any, what is it? Manava seva, iti Madhava seva, like service to man is the same as service to Madhava, to God. No, Prabhupada smashes that. It's like you can't just serve anyone. It's like that might cultivate the mode of goodness, but there's no transcendental knowledge in that. But someone who's connected to Krishna, like everything in that ashram, that's Krishna's property. So it means that the personality is present there.
Yeah.
Like if I go down on 4th Ave and start scrubbing a floor there, I might gain favor of the personality who's the proprietor. Mm-hmm. Fair enough. If he's not present though, and nobody notices, do I get credit from him? No. If I didn't sign in my logbook, do I get paid? No. Who know? Like who can prove that you did it? But the personality of Godhead, he'll notice that you did that and he'll give you good results, but you weren't doing it for him, you were doing it for yourself. Therefore, there's no transcendental knowledge.
Right.
But if you do it directly,
it's just good karma.
Just good karma. He's like, oh, you want to act on the platform,
which gives you a new body to enjoy that karma and a new death.
Yeah. But yeah, you serve in his temple, in his ashram. So yeah, like you said, like you guys were saying, association, because any association, you're directly engaged in the transcendental world. That's Krishna's world that you just stepped into. And every little bit of interaction there, you're gaining knowledge, you're gaining remembrance of your eternal nature, you're gaining the bliss of spiritual life. you're stepping into that world. What to speak of actively engaging in service? What to speak of actively cultivating a spiritual practice, and really getting serious, taking initiation, aligning your whole life and soul with the mission of your guru. Right?
Yeah.
Then
Yes.
all of the impurities of your heart are removed. Right.
Yeah.
You're fully integrated into that ashram.
That's another thing, if Guru Dev, it can even be just a casual suggestion, not anything like a command, but just kind of a statement, but you take that to heart, whoa, and you start enacting that to please Guru Dev, to please Krishna. That is powerful. That's warp drive. Pleasing the spiritual master. And, just taking that initiative, wow,
That's what Srila Prabhupada did.
It was
like
decades. It took him decades
Yeah.
that he never lost that vision.
Yeah. The first time it was just like a suggestion, like you should preach in the Western world.
Yeah.
Pretty sure you worded it just like that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you should preach in the what for like
You
decades.
two young men, you have a good college education. You should go preach this cult.
Yeah.
That was a version I read. Yeah. You should preach this cult. Yeah, go out in the world, go out to the West and preach this cult. So I was going, but he took that to heart. It was another decade before he became initiated, but he kept that, and he began to think of Bhaktisiddhanta as his spiritual master even then.
Yeah, and to see how empowered he was by Krishna. Jai. What do you think, Jake? Was there anything else in here that stood out to you guys? You're just basking.
Yeah, I am. I admit it. I'm just taking it all in. I'm like, yep, I agree. Yes. So yeah, absolutely. We have just a little bit of time. We could probably get one more paragraph for sure. This little paragraph right here, probably. If you don't mind me reading, I don't know. I'm trying to do the best I can.
Okay. Yeah. Go for it.
So, next paragraph. One who has, sorry, one has to understand.
Sorry.
One has to understand your appearance with great intelligence, because the material energy is also emanating from you. You are the original source of the material energy, just as the sun is the source of the sunshine. The sunshine cannot cover the sun globe, nor can the material energy, being an emanation from you, cover you. You appear to be in the three modes of material energy, but actually the three modes of material energy cannot cover you. This is understood by the highly intellectual philosophers. In other words, although you appear to be within the material energy, you are never covered by it. Yeah. Now,
why don't we read next?
Oh, okay. You want to read the next one too? Okay. Yes, absolutely. Okay.
I think, yeah, that overlaps pretty nicely. Just expands a little.
Okay. We hear from the Vedic version that the Supreme Brahman exhibits his effulgence, and therefore everything becomes illuminated. We can understand from the Brahma Samhita that the Brahma Jyoti, or the Brahman effulgence emanates from the body of the Supreme Lord. and from the Brahman effulgence, all creation takes place. It is also stated in the Bhagavad Gita that the Lord is the support of the Brahman effulgence. Therefore, originally, he is the root cause of everything. But persons who are less intelligent think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes within this material world. He accepts the material qualities. Such conclusions are not very mature, but are made by less intelligent. So,
So again, it's the same thing that you have the sun and you have the sunshine, right? And because you're seeing the sun via the sunshine, it appears that the sun has that the sunshine is the sun, but the sunshine can be covered by clouds, but the sun can never be covered over.
In the earlier paragraph, the one above, where it talks about he's the source of the material energy, that this is his expansion. He's never covered by it. He's not part of it. It's interesting. So this universe, according to the Vedic scriptures, is nothing but the Lord's external energy. It's energy. And it takes on different forms and attributes, the elements and everything. But in the end, it's energy. And it's interesting that beginning in 1905, Albert Einstein discovered that the universe, that the matter of this table or our body is nothing but pure energy. That led ultimately to the atomic bomb and to the release of a tiny fraction of energy in the atom. The interesting thing is that if you look at how the scriptures define the energy of the Lord, it's the ability to accomplish things. It's the ability to do work. For instance, we're his margin. And in the spiritual world, we render loving to him. We're accomplishing his tasks. In the material world, we're in it for ourselves, but in the end, everybody is really serving him. It's the ability to do work and to accomplish things, his will. And so both science and the scriptures, science defines energy as the ability to do work and accomplish work. Right? So even the definition is the same, but this definition comes from the scriptures, advice of 5,000 years ago. But science only discovered this a little over a century ago. But even energy is defined the same way. And remember, science discovered that basically as an atheistic, impersonal system, and it still was able to discover that truth. And that's not a coincidence. That's really quite profound.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to unpack that a little bit more?
Well, the ability to do it, you can define the ability to do work. If I lift this book, I'm lifting against gravity, so I'm releasing a certain amount of energy, or if you're releasing it in terms of a nuclear reactor, which a nuclear fission reactor, you're getting 1/1000th the potential energy out. And yet that's hundreds of thousands of times more energy than in coal or oil. So, science has confirmed the words of the scripture, and that can be used when you're talking to like a college student that's a science major or something like that. There's an infinite wealth of scientific knowledge in the Vedas. It's spiritual, but there's also profound things about the material universe that actually science is rediscovering without knowing they are. It's up to us to make sure that that this actually was discovered. It wasn't discovered, it's top-down knowledge from God, that it was given to us. And now after, for instance, science has just discovered dark matter. It's what the Vedas call subtle matter. Most of the universe is actually subtle matter. In the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that, the world tree, which is symbolic of the material manifestation, he says that, you can't see the roots or the trunks or the branches. You can't see the locus. You can't see Lord Brahma. You can't see the spiritual other dimensions like Devaloka, where Indra is and things like that. All you can see
Twigs.
is the twigs and the fruit-bearing twigs, the figs. And the interesting thing about that, if you think about an aswathan tree, it's a tropical fig tree. It's huge. In fact, the biggest one is in West Bengal. It's not far from Mayapur.
Wow.
It's 3,000 feet across, 90 feet tall. It has 3,000 trunks. It's a forest in and of itself. And out of all that huge mass, all we can see is the fruit and the twigs that bear them. Science has discovered since the 90s that this universe is 95% made out of things that we have no idea what it is. It's called dark matter, dark energy, and dark matter. That the visual matter that we can see is 5% of the total. There's another stunning, it took us 500 years, 17 generations, and hundreds of billions of dollars to discover that. And it's in the scriptures. And not only that, Krishna uses a metaphor for the universe, the spider and its web. The spider spins its web. It talks about it spinning this huge web. And think about that. The spider's tiny, and this web can be, some spiders make webs hundreds of feet across, in the tropical areas, but they're much bigger than the spider. It expands to a great size. And Srila Prabhupada commenting on it, he uses the word cosmic web. And that's actually, scientists have discovered the structure of this unseen energy, which they don't know what it is, but they can map it by its gravitational influence, that it has the form of the cosmic web. There's a whole lot there to unpack. There's an immense amount to unpack there, because in doing this, there's many similes in the scriptures that are confirmed in detail, and science doesn't even know they've done that. But Krishna, speaking 5,000 years ago, casually said, the universe, on the largest scales looks like a cosmic spider web. And if you Google that, you will see in the mapping of the dark energy, it's even called the cosmic web. And it's been mapped in great detail. And for instance, one of the metaphors is not metaphor, simile, is the cosmic Purusa. This universe is presented as something that's alive. The cosmic Purusa, the world tree, the lotus, the spider and its web. Those are similes saying that not that the universe is made out of wood, but that as above, so below. This is a reflection of the spiritual world. It's also a reflection of the subtle world of matter. And that at the largest scales, what you're going to see is structures that are similar to a tree or a brain. And if you look, and scientists are doing this, there was a paper this fall that talked about the structure, the neuronal structure of the human brain, mathematically quantifying it, comparing it to a neural net theory, as in a computer, and showing that the cosmic web has the same characteristics of a neural net. They were even able to quantify information, the rate of information exchange, potential memory capacity. We're talking about, and this is something that science never expected. This is totally unexpected. Science has changed inside out since Prabhupada's day, and since even the 90s. So there's all of this energy. It has a specific structure, and Krishna said it's like a cosmic web. If you look at a microscopic slide of a tree, you'll find the same types of structures that we find in our brain or in a lotus or in a spider web, or in the dendritic structure of a tree branches.
Yeah, it's dendritic.
Yeah. So it's really profound. It's a revolution. And the thing of it is, what we need to do is assimilate that. We need to know enough about the cutting edge science so that we can witness to the college students, engineering and science majors, and say, hey, look, this is in our scriptures. You guys are just now beginning to discover this, but here's the details.
Yeah,
that's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, to give them a vision, because the point is, you're doing your work in the dark. It's like the rays of truth are there, but we have the inside scoop, if you will, the source of light.
Right.
And so we're doing our work, not occluded from that.
Some of the equipment we have is so vast. The latest Chinese radio telescope is almost half a mile wide. Half a kilometer wide. So that's what, about 1,800 feet. Yeah. Gargantuan instruments that have taken generation after generation to build up to this point of discovering what Krishna casually talked about 5,000 years ago, just kind of matter of fact, Oh, here's an example. And it just happens to be absolute cutting edge frontier. And the one interesting thing, again, this is a paper that's like a month or two old, because scientists have been working now for 3 generations trying to understand dark matter, trying to detect it. Detecting it by its gravitational influence is one thing, but detecting it in a particle accelerator, actually knowing what's causing that gravity, is a totally different thing. And we haven't discovered it yet. But where was I going with that?
Well, ultimately, the issue is consciousness, right? Like the subtle matter, that's mind, intelligence, and ego.
Right.
And then even superior a priori to that is consciousness, which is the soul. So you're trying to do your work, figuring out, it's like, yeah, who was it that just said that?
I remember what it was.
Okay.
Subtle atoms. They're now beginning to think that they've been postulating that subtle matter is basic, simple subatomic particles of some sort that we haven't discovered yet, like an ocean of it. Now they're beginning to talk about the possibility of dark atoms, dark elements, structure, a whole variegated world. And again, that's what the scriptures describe. And the scientists haven't discovered it yet, but step by step, our measurements and stuff are leading us to conclusions that are right out of the scriptures. It's absolutely amazing. And this is stuff that, these are bona fide, peer-reviewed, published journal scientific papers, like in Physics Today, American Association for the Advancement of Science is not some new age thing. This is hardcore Stanford University, Yale, Princeton, cutting edge stuff. And so I think that we're being given a gift in this time to use this knowledge to gain entrance to be able to witness to science and engineering majors and just the public that's just interested, and show and touching on what you said, you talk about ego, talking about mind intellect, that's of the subtle matter universe. And what are they looking at? If you look at the detailed mathematical structure of what they're discovering in the cosmic web and compare it to the human mind, sometimes you don't know which is which. It's that close, and it's not an accident. They've been able to mathematically show that this is a real property and not just some sort of an illusion, which again, cosmic Purusa. But also, subtle matter is mind and ego. Science is beginning to discover mentality in the subtle matter. There's all sorts of things like this going on. So it's almost like science is slowly rediscovering some aspects of ancient Vedic knowledge, but they lack the context to lead them to Krishna, and we can provide the context.
Yeah, something deeper, and we'll end on this. So we're at our time. This was Dr. Ethan was giving a Bhagavatam class just like a couple weeks ago, and touching on atheism, and this one argument just was just so brilliant. So it's like, if you walk into someone's home and you see a freshly baked cake there, right? And let's say like that's like what you can study with material instruments. You can study it inside and out, right? You can totally dissect it, right?
Mathematically quantify the little bubbles of bread.
Everything about it. But there's one thing that you cannot say without admitting the reality of personhood, and that's why was that made?
One of the leading physicists of our time, he made a comment that amazed me. He said, he's a physicist, and he was talking, if you want to debate with an atheist, it's almost pointless to look in the physics department. You got to go to the philosophy department.
Very good. Yeah.
Widespread belief in God, some level, is very widespread in the scientific community. It's kind of a myth. In fact, you can go and look at the polls. Polls have been taken of Nobel Prize winning scientists because they're recognized university as the top of their field. And if you look, 5% are atheists. That's actually a little bit less than in the general population. Most are quite religious, and some of them profoundly so. But science, yet as a whole, as a trajectory, has consistently been impersonal. It's not Mayavada because it doesn't have that philosophical basis, but it's tending in that direction. And again, that's where we need to intervene. There's more openness, and especially among college students, they're searching. A lot of times they're searching. They're hungry. They're looking for answers. They're looking in the wrong place. They're not going to find those answers in the material energy. All they're going to do is just be led in the Maya, a maze.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of college, I have been to college, even though you wouldn't know it by the way I was reading the scripture today, which I thank you for putting up with my reading. I'm a little rusty, I guess, as far as my reading skills go. So thank you.
Hey, I wanted to say, actually, I'm impressed how much better you're doing with the Sanskrit terms like Shiraduksha. You nailed it. When we started this podcast, you really struggled over those.
Yeah, I know.
So I can tell you're.
Babu, I wouldn't struggle over that. I would fall flat on my face. I'm the worst Sanskrit person on the planet.
Yeah. Sanskrit is I'm definitely in that learning curve of really, really, really trying to get the Sanskrit right. And I'm sure I will be there for the duration of my life, is just trying to read Sanskrit and trying to just really grasp it. It's a beautiful language, and there's so many great qualities about it. But thank you, gentlemen, Prabhus, for doing the show with us today. We are out of time, but it was a wonderful comeback show, and we thank you so much, Prabhu, for joining us. And I gotta say, I'm really, really amazed and really impressed with. We went in a very kind of like scientific direction, and I love going that way. I really do, and it's so thought provoking. So thank you so much once again, and thank you watchers and listeners of the Soul Ashraya podcast. We are going to be doing the podcast hopefully on a much regular basis. We did take a little bit of a break, but we want to thank you, YouTube people, for watching us, checking us out. And we want to thank anybody and everybody who, takes a little bit of time to check out our service. Shall we end with reciting the Maha Mantra 3 times, Balaram? All right. I will lead us off, Prabhus. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you again for joining us. And as always, Hare Hare Bo.